Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and today we're going to finally get around to working on my U2 grinder. I waited a very long time for the eBay seller to ever send me any replacement parts for the stuff that got damaged in shipping, and he was such a wonderful guy. He wouldn't sign a release so that for FedEx so that they could accept my my claim. So FedEx refused my claim, and the seller, after making several promises, didn't do anything at all. Anyway, we're going to take the U2 grinder. Now that I'm through with the rent, we're going to work on it and fix the bent and broken pieces. The broken pieces we'll just make replacement parts for, and the bent pieces we'll straighten, all right, if we can. So let's just stop the griping session and get on with the work. This is the piece we're going to work on today. It's cast iron. You can see the grain there, and it's magnetics. Believe me, it's cast iron, and it's got a couple little bearings in it. So, and this is kind of a little protrusion here. Well, I'm not going to make it out of cast iron because I don't have it. I'm going to make the little booger out of aluminum. All right. I've got a piece here that I've already marked up. I got it drawn out on there, and I'm going to cut the little booger off of there, and then I'm going to do I'll cut down to these lines in the mill, but the biggest part of the work will be done over there on the lathe. So, well, at least half of it will. And so I guess it's time to crank up this guy here and get it over with. Little eye covering here won't hurt. A little grease on it won't hurt. I say grease, actually a little bit of diesel. This guy's cut off, hardly any heat in it, and we're going to get on with it here. Love that song. Well, I got the vise back on. I got it within less than 1,000th over 5 inches, so that'll be good to fire these lines. Something I didn't notice until I got to deburring this thing is this thing's been dropped on the end. This end's kind of bent over, and this end is definitely bent over. Sorry, you couldn't see that. This end is definitely bent over. You can see that dark spot? That's where it makes a sharp dive downwards. And so this was the end of it. So it got rough treatment there, but I'm going to cut the thing right down to these lines, and then we'll move to the lathe. Now Mr. Pete says take a parallel and use it to line the thing up, and I think that's an excellent idea. I've actually got 2 parallels, so I'm doing twice as good as he suggested. Let me get this thing back a little, because that damage to it is causing a slight problem. That looks like the parallels are dead on with the line. And I think it's in there tight enough that it'll stay. So I'm going to cut all that off. Now I know if I had an upright metal cutting bandsaw, I could cut across here and save myself a whole lot of work and a lot of chips and junk to clean up. With my little hard freight bandsaw in the upright position, the blade comes off every time you get started, and I can't bear that kind of frustration. Alright, so we're down within 50 thousandths of that line, so I'm going to have to take a little experimental cut here and there. And my DRO is not on here, so we'll just sort of go over the dial. And well, we can't go over the dial because that's not on there either. Alright, so we'll just sort of guess. Luckily for me, that it doesn't have to be dead on. Let's see how close we're getting right now to being on the mark. So, that's really close to the line, but not on it. Try it again. That's pretty well right on the line, so that's where I'm going to make my finished cut on this side. So that's good enough to be nearer on the line. So what I'll do is I'll finish off this side, and then I'll turn it over and cut the other side down to the line. But I'm going to do all that off camera. Okay, I'm making sure this side here is smooth, because these little wrinkles on both sides. The saw makes a pretty smooth cut with these grooves in it, you know. So this will ensure I get a good finish on both sides. I'll be turning the other side in the lathe. Alright, the next step here is to set this thing right on top of the layout lines I've got, and get a transfer punch that fits nice and tight in the bearings, and then come over here and transfer the hole. Now we know where the center is supposed to be of that particular part. Aren't I clever? Okay, as you can see, we've got a punch mark pretty well centered in all of the little lines and curves. So when I chuck it up in the lathe, that's going to be the center, and then I can bore it right there and machine it and everything based on that. Alright, I want to take the bearings out of here so I know how big a hole to bore off over there. So I've got a socket in there, and maybe it'll push the bearing out, and I guess it's not going to do that. I got a feeling that bearing is, I guess it's against the shoulder in there or something. It's not going out. Well, I went over to the hydraulic press and pushed them out. It seems there was a shoulder in there, so I could never have got these out to reuse them anyway. So now they may be in good shape, and they may not. They don't feel bad. I don't see any damage, but I sure got that shoulder out of there. 12 tons nearly of push will do things like that. Okay, so I don't know that I'm going to make a shoulder in this other one. I'll just push the bearings in a certain distance and maybe put a spacer between them. I got to think on it. Alright, Double Boost has used this particular method of centering things up on his channel, so I'm just copying him. I think it's a good way to do it, and according to that, I'm really close, you know, and I did that by accident. So see what happens. So I kind of tighten down on it a little bit. After all, we want it nice and tight in there. I did take it over on the belt grinder and flatten off the ends a little bit so that I'd have something good for the jaws to grab a hold of instead of sharp angles. And that looks to me like that's pretty much dead on. I don't know if you can see it dead on, but I can. And so now we'll just go ahead and cut around the circle here and get her done. Alright, so I'm going to cut a radius for the part that sticks up. You know, it's that shoulder part that goes up. And see if I can't get just a little bit thicker wall on it than the cast piece, because this is aluminum and softer. I don't know that it's really necessary, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slow the lathe down a little because this thing's going to be really out of balance. Alright, got the belt all squared away there. Let's give it a little exploratory cut. You can see the lathe kind of shaking from the out of balance. Alright, so it's going to cut just fine. So, let's just go on with it. Steel wheels or anything, they're plastic wheels, so they wobble some. I'm going to put you guys to sleep until we get really closer to doing something. I ran the tool in 15 thousandths for that first cut, and you can see with that the thickness has got to be pretty even. So anyway, back to sleep. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.